All right. Well, we are live on Facebook, and we're going to give a few seconds here to see if we have any viewers come on here. We probably will. But if you are joining us, we are live from Lighthouse Baptist Church today, and I have with me Brother Ted and Miss Jo Mock, and they are with us for Children's Crusade this week. And we had a wonderful day yesterday. We had 3 young people come to Christ yesterday morning in our junior church, which was kind of just introducing the week. And we're going to go through Wednesday. But I thought it would be great to get Brother Ted and Miss Jo on Facebook here today to get the word out, number 1, about our meeting, and number 2, about you all. Because as our pastor put it, and you just put it to me, you are children's ministry's best kept secret. And so I'm excited about hearing how God led you to do what you're doing, because we mentioned this a lot yesterday, but we've known each other for quite a while. I went to college with their son, Michael. Right. And actually, when I traveled with Crown in their singing group, stayed at your house in Arkansas. Right. And you owned pizza joints and a grocery store, and we probably bankrupted you because you opened the store and the pizza places.
Well,
and
that may be true.
But anyway, it has been a long time in our relationship, but I've also got to see God do things in your life and God redirect you. And so I just wanted to get a little bit of that from you, because you never know who's watching. You never know who's going to see it, that God may be working on their heart to step out, because I know it was stepping out by faith.
Sure.
And maybe encourage them to seek God's face about it a little more. So the first thing I want to do is, good, we've got some people actually watching us today. Good. My wife's watching. Good. Hey, honey. And Michael DeHaven's watching. Hey, Michael. But let's talk about first your background, your salvation experience, how God brought you to himself. Mm-hmm. And Miss Jo, why don't you go first? And if at any point you can't hear one of us, let me know in the comments, and we'll adjust it. But Miss Jo, how did you come to know the Lord?
Well, my parents both were Christians, but for a while weren't heavily involved in church. We moved to Texas and became familiar with the Independent Baptist Church, and that worked there. And so my parents began to get involved at that point. And when I was 9 years old, I was at a church in Hot Springs, Arkansas. We had moved after the death of my brother. We moved to Arkansas. And I remember distinctly sitting in that service, and one of my heroes of the faith, my pastor, was preaching, and I just knew that I needed to be saved. I went forward. He showed me out of the Bible how I could know Christ as my Savior. And from that point, every time I go to youth camp in the summer times, God spoke to my heart always about full-time service. I always wanted to serve him full-time. Then later, as I got into high school, I had some great friends, but did not go to the Bible college that I knew I should have gone to. But Ted's dad pastored our church. We met. I was the piano player, and we later...
I ran off with the piano player.
Later, we married, and always had a heart for missions, a heart to do anything I could in full-time service.
Well, great.
And so because of that, we were able to help my parents start a church in Arkansas. And we basically, without being paid full-time, we worked for the church. We taught, I played the piano, we did anything we could for God in that capacity, as well as having our own businesses. And then later, Ted can probably fill you in more about how he started feeling the need to get back to that first calling.
Well, let's stop right there. And Brother Ted, you tell us how you came to the Lord.
Well, I told you guys this, I guess, some of my story. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, when my father was off in Korea. He didn't see me until I was 18 months old. Then we moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it was from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, my father moved us north while I was in the first grade. North all the way to Mobile, Alabama. So, that's And we were not churchgoers at all. The best way to describe my family is we was just downright heathen. That's all we were. But the Lord found us on Oxmoor Drive off of Three Notch Road in Mobile, Alabama. And a neighbor lady tried to witness to us across the fence, but she wasn't getting anywhere. So she sent Wayne Crenshaw, her pastor. Next thing you know, we're going to that church. I hadn't been probably 3 or 4 times to a church in my life. I know one of them was as a ring bearer. I remember that because I got a spanking for swinging on the bars, while I was holding the pillow with the ring. So you know how that goes. But it was in a Sunday school class that I first heard the gospel, that Jesus loved me, died for me. If that lady would have given an invitation, I would have gotten saved. I wish I knew who that was. I wish I knew who the neighbor was, but I don't remember. And a couple of weeks after that, I guess Wayne Crenshaw was preaching, and the Lord spoke to my heart on the matter of salvation. I went down and got saved.
Amen.
And that changed my life. A couple of weeks later, my father got saved, and he got what they called in Alabama the double dose. And I mean, life changed for the Mock family immediately.
Wow.
I remember that was on a Sunday, and I remember my daddy started family devotions like on a Monday night. Called us in a little bit before dark, which we hated because we didn't have video games to play. And he tried to read a chapter in the Bible. He only had a 5th grade formal education. And I could have read better than him. And I think about that because it was so much of a difference in my home. To have a daddy trying to read me the Bible, than a daddy that at times couldn't hold me in his lap because he was drunk. I mean, God changed our lives.
Wow.
Wasn't long after that, excuse me, wasn't long after that, my father, really a heart to do anything. Wayne Crenshaw said, why don't you take over the youth department? So he did. And we started going to things called youth camps. I didn't know what in the world that was. I went to junior camp, begged to stay with the senior camp, Rolling Hills Youth Camp. Down there close to Mobile, and went to youth camp and stayed over, begged Daddy to stay over, and because I wanted to be with the teenage boys. They were doing so much fun stuff, and he said, I don't know about that. And so they said, well, Brother Mock, we'll watch him. And I had a great time, but I fell asleep through all the good stuff, like when they'd sneak out and go have a pillow fight on the ball diamond. All of that I missed out on, but I did miss out on good preaching. And that was the second time I really heard the Lord talking to me in my heart. I guess I was probably about 11 years old at this time. And I knew the Lord was calling me to himself, but also calling me to missions. I knew that. And my wife and I have been married for 41 years. We've always served the Lord. Like you say, we were in Bearden, Arkansas, and starting a church that you've been to, and with the Crown Group. Fellowship Baptist Church in Bearden, Arkansas, and that's now our sending church too, by the way.
Wow.
And look how things come around. That is so good.
It's great.
And in the 11th chapter of the book of Romans, it says that the gifts and the calling of God are without repentance. And I'm not saying that we've always been involved in that 41 years of church work, but there's a difference in doing something and doing something God really wants you to do.
That's right.
And circumstances changed. We were in business, had a small grocery store, not a big deal. You've been there. Had some pizza places, no big shakes,
right.
But it was what we did.
Right.
God allowed that to help support the church and help us support us while we worked in the church. But I still knew that I needed to get doing what God wanted me to do. An opportunity came, and God spoke to my heart. So we left all that behind. All the family had moved out of the Central Time Zone. So why not? And we moved, sold out, and moved, and didn't know exactly what we were going to do. And a good friend of ours that I actually went to Bible college with, his name is Larry Neff, and he's the founder of Lighthouse Children's Homes. He asked us to help go in with him and represent the Lighthouse Children's Home. So that's how we got started. And then the ministry grew. And I got to tell you, this church, and we were talking about this earlier before the interview, this church has so much to do with the growth of what Joe and I have been able to do. This church has opened doors for us through the Loving and Leading Conference and through the IFFB meetings that pastors brought me down for, and encouraged us to get into things like the teacher workers conferences that we do. And so now we're doing the first vacation Bible school for you guys. And
yes, it's wonderful.
That's just an interesting thing, right?
That's
there.
great. And it's so great how God just put all those pieces together and seeing his hand on you guys and what he's brought you to, and man, just what he's going to do with you in the future as well. This is going to be posted on our Facebook page. And so we're going to encourage people to share this. And really, if a pastor were to watch this and maybe he doesn't know you guys or what you would have to offer a church, why don't we talk about that a little bit? If a pastor were to call you and say, hey, we'd like you to come, what are some of the things that you could offer, whichever one of you want to say it?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is when it comes down to the children's stuff, my wife is carrying most of the ball on that. I came late to the children's ministry. She's making me do this stuff, but that's what was in the beginning. I don't want to do this. Well, you need to do this. So, I was reluctant, but now I tell you what, I'd rather work with kids than I would adults any day because I am kind of a big cut up and a kid myself. Right. But my wife, she does, even when I'm doing other meetings like vacation Bible schools, not just, I should say, other meetings like a revival or missions conferences. She's usually taking the kids out and doing something with them.
Great.
She's the main focus on the kids side of it. I'm just kind of there carrying the suitcases and got a little bit stronger voice on some things, but
great.
She's the one that does most of that work.
But 3-day VBSs to full week VBSs, you do those type of things? Sure.
It's getting to be now that most of our meetings of all types, and I found this true for other people that travel in the ministry too, is logistically, if you start on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that leaves you Thursday, Friday to get to the next church Reset. On Saturday. Right. And sometimes when they start rolling a lot of them in a row, you don't know what town you're in. Right. So, you have to stop and think when you get up, where are you?
Right.
But most of our meetings are now, I guess, would be Sunday through Wednesday. Some of them go Sunday through Thursday, and we try to be flexible and things. Some of them are Monday through Thursday. They do the VBSs. Sometimes it's Sunday night through Wednesday nights because some churches are just asking for Monday and Tuesday as extra nights for their people. Right. So, it's just what the church wants.
Sure.
But maybe Joe can tell you a little bit more. Let her jump in.
Sure.
Tell you a little bit about what she does with the kids.
Right. Please do. Yeah.
Well, I just do what God has allowed me to learn and come through help with other people in my past. I started out in ventriloquism when I was 14.
Wow.
And I never dreamed I would still be doing it at this age. I always kid around and say it's a little insanity talking to yourself playing with dolls at my age. But it's just what God has given me to do, and I want to give it back to Him. I always have. And then key people in my life that God has brought along
Miss Rogers,
have helped me do Gospel Illusions. Larry Neff, as we mentioned before, he has been doing Gospel Illusions for a long time, and he's always kicked me out of my comfort zone many times in lots of areas, and that was one of them. And praise God for it, because it added to what little things I began with.
Right.
Can I just jump in? One thing that happened, talking about Larry always throwing us out of our comfort zone. We went with him. He said, I'm doing a chalk revival. He's also one of these chalk artists,
right?
Where they do the black light thing and all that. Well, Joe has gone to school and she's learned how to do that, but she's not, she's a little reluctant. There's no way Ted can draw straight lines, so, I don't worry about it. So he's doing this revival where he's drawing a chalk picture every night. And he said, on Monday night, he said, you come back tomorrow night, you're going to see something that has never been seen before in the whole world. We're sitting there. We know this guy. What is he talking about? He said, tomorrow night, Ted's going to preach and Joe's going to draw the picture. So, that's how he throws us out.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
but he does help you.
Yeah, so we never go with him on those meetings anymore because he's liable to do that.
Yeah.
So, but go ahead and tell about Miss Rogers too, Joe.
So I'm just saying that he has helped me develop a lot more in the area of Gospel Illusions. And that's been very helpful. We try to always use a gospel message with every illusion, not just be entertaining, but try to have something there that will keep the kids' interest and at the same time give a little message along with what we're trying to talk about for our vacation Bible schools. And then I met a dear lady in our life years ago, Mrs. Rogers, and she invited me back in the late 80s to go and do public schools and teach flannel graph in the public schools. And that was during the day we went during the middle of the school, and they volunteer purposes only, the children came, and most of them always showed up, and we did a program, and that developed my the skills that God has given me to teach children with using flannel graph pictures. I think that's the greatest tool I've ever seen for children. I see that it captures their attention. And of course, just sticking a picture up there, you do have to learn some things about it. And so she was a great tool to once again give me extra things for our children's ministry, and just people along the way that invest in everybody's lives.
Right. So 14 years old, you started messing around with
Ventriloquism.
ventriloquism, and God started working in your heart about ministry about what age?
11.
11. So I work with teenagers all the time, and I always try to stress to them that God most definitely has a plan for your life. And you may not see, well, you can't see the full plan right now.
That's true.
But there are things that he has put in your life, even your likes.
Exactly.
And your hobbies.
I understand that completely.
That he is more than willing to use in the long term.
Sure. And if he created you, he also created your personality, and he knew what your personality was like before he called you. And you got to think that, I love that scripture in Romans where it talks about the gifts and the calling of God. And I think God gives you gifts, but he also calls you to use your gifts. Right. And you're dealing with teenagers.
Right.
I don't know what your gift is. Maybe you have thumb dexterity from texting, but God's given you probably have these most nimble thumbs in the world, but God's given you that for whatever reason. And you may not see, and I know where you went to college, one of the things they talk about at Crown is there's a conscious and an unconscious preparation.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things in life that, we were not conscious of at the time, but God was using it. And I don't know what you call us now. Some people call us children's evangelists, but they've only seen us during the summertime. And then some people called me an evangelist. Some people call us missionaries because we are involved with children's homes work, and we have 6 foreign children's homes. But, no matter what, it's different being full-time, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
And that we learned a lot along the way, especially in Beard, to help start the church, to get more of a passion for what God really wants. And we were very moved from missions. We gave heavily to missions. We loved missionaries coming through, just like when you came through with a singing group.
Right.
We took you down to the store. We've done that with missionary kids, like you wouldn't believe,
Sure.
And they think it's
and it probably made their day like it made ours,
And so, but it taught us we had to have a heart for missions. And, I know you probably got a lot of people in this church. You do missions conferences. I've been here for one, and I know they're sold on missions. But there comes a times where God may not ask for your money.
Right.
God might ask for you.
Right.
And he might even ask for your kids.
Right.
And, man, that's a wonderful thing
It
to
is.
think about. And if you're working with teenagers, man, what better thing than if God was to put his hand on you and call you to do something, anything for him.
That's exactly right.
So.
You also do some teacher training as well?
Sure. If you had our prayer card, we came up with catchy sayings because churches today can't just, take the Great Commission. They have to come up with their little alliterated sayings.
Right.
This is our
Right.
mission statement.
Right.
Everybody's got a mission statement. So I thought the Lord gave us one. But on our prayer card, we say this, and this is true, as long as we have health and mental clarity. I always say this, Joe's always talking about my mental clarity part. We want to spend the rest of our time that we have reaching children.
Amen.
And restoring families and raising up another generation to do what we do, because one of these days we'll be gone unless the Lord comes back. So far, everybody's died. That's going to happen to us. Mm-hmm. And you need to look at it in that 3-pronged way. So anything that's involved in reaching children, which is the work we do with the children's home, children's ministries that we do, we're in for that.
Right.
I mean, we are always in. I still believe you can build a church through your Sunday school. I believe that if you reach children, that gives you an inroad to the heart of the parents. And so I'm always in favor of a church that's willing to have a vacation Bible school so they can do the follow-up to try and reach the rest of the family.
Right.
Still believe in that. Our families in America are in a mess. We do a lot of family-oriented revivals and conferences or whatever you want to call them. And we speak directly on things that are in, the problems in the home today.
Yep.
And I tell everybody what a wonderful husband I am and how perfect our marriage is and how you need to pattern your home after mine Our kids are angels, and they've
Okay,
grown.
let's move on. To the next.
No, we talk about real world problems
Yeah,
that we
absolutely.
have, and families. Then also, my favorite thing to do is to preach at missions conferences. And just finished a good one with a young man that we've known since he was 17. He's now in Enid, Oklahoma. In less than a year, he took the church from 22 to about 100.
Wow.
We had 3 saved that week. And I tell you what, it was just a wonderful meeting, and he better than tripled his mission budget. And even after that, he took us on for support. So, man,
Wow.
can you believe
That's
it?
great. Well, and back to teacher training. I know some other.
Yeah, we do a lot of teacher work.
Other evangelists that do this, and that sometimes the least noticed and least invested in people in our churches are Sunday school teachers.
Oh, yes.
And
God bless them.
yes, and I know people, and I've talked to people that have been teaching Sunday school for 20 and 30 years, and they have never had any type of training or anything like that. They go in and they teach the curriculum every week. And so what a great thing for a church to do for their Sunday school teachers is to have someone like you all in for a Saturday morning and have 3 or 4 sessions where they're just sharpening their tools.
This church was the first church that had a teacher workers conference with us.
Yeah.
And we don't know, we're not the end all, we are the nobodies.
Right.
But my wife has been, it would take a day to tell you her experiences with Mary Rogers. She was trained by Ann and Fan Shepherdson.
Well,
and
Fan Shepherdson.
Fan Shepherdson. And I think that she actually wrote the Abeka Bible stories in the early days, and you'll still see some of her stuff credited. A lot of people don't know this, and she was talking about going to the public schools where my wife first really got involved with the flannel graph and becoming a storyteller and learning the techniques, and there's a lot to be learned there. But those 2 ladies and Miss Rogers are gone on. And they left a legacy that is unbelievable in the state of Arkansas. The ladies never married. They were related to some people in Arkansas, and their nephew later becomes the governor of the state, the senator of the state. So they had a network where they were allowed to do these things. And they had an inroad and used it greatly for the Lord. And Mary Rogers was one of their proteges. And then my wife is the last in that line. When Miss Rogers died, in my basement, I have 2 filing cabinets of stuff that before the days of computers and internet, she handmade.
Wow.
And bequeathed them and left them to my wife.
Wow. That's awesome.
And so her testimony and her influence and the 2 ladies, Miss Fan and Ann, their influence is carried on. And I would say that my wife has a whole lot more to give than that than we do. But when we did the teachers' conferences, usually start out like on a Friday night. You have an awards banquet, an appreciation banquet for your teachers.
Right.
They're like they're faithful, day in, day out. You couldn't live without them.
Absolutely.
And they get no recognition.
That's right.
That's
right.
And they're the Rodney Dangerfields of the church. They get no respect, and they're wore out to a frazzle. They don't have any help, and they're understaffed, and they're sure not paid, and so it doesn't.
I know every time. I'm sorry.
No.
I know every time we have a teacher conference here, our Sunday school teachers walk away with a shot in the arm, thinking, "Hey, I can conquer the world,"
Yeah.
And it does so much for them.
And I was just saying, and don't forget to mention the junior church workers.
Exactly right.
Because they have their hands full as well.
Absolutely.
Especially if we preachers get long-winded.
Yes.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I got to say something
go
about
ahead.
that. Early on, we're in Louisville, Kentucky, and we've been in a church, and I always try to ask the pastor, how long do you go? And so on Sunday morning, he says, preach as long as you want. Well, I got up there and I preached. And my wife was doing junior church, and I don't think she appreciated that, no matter what the pastor said.
Yeah, it's a
So
good
we
thing
pull
to
up
be
the second
careful.
time on the parking lot, and I'm trying to explain to her the church, and when you're in a lot of churches, you don't remember exactly where you've been. When we pulled up on the parking lot, she said, I remember this church. This is church where you went long. And
He
so
didn't go long that
I
time.
didn't go that long. And I told him, I said, the pastor told me to preach as long as I wanted to.
Well,
and I
in
did.
junior
He told me the same
church-
thing, but my wife told me we're getting out of here at 12 today.
Sunday school
And they rolled with
teachers,
it.
Sunday school teachers have a set time.
That's true.
And I know they're going to start and they're going to end, but junior church workers never know.
That's true. And you're so right on. The pastor could not do what he does without that base of people.
That's true.
And so that's why I love the idea of the teacher training and just
Same thing with nursery workers. And believe it or not, my
That's
wife
true.
and I used to once a month volunteer to keep the 4-year-old nursery. And
Well-
man, that was rough, buddy.
The thing too, the first conference we did was here at your church, and we never even thought about doing something
Right.
along those lines, and never thought that what we did would be even a help to somebody else. You've seen how low tech our things are, simple. I always say, just about anybody could pick up our stuff and go do it if they knew something about children's ministry. And when we do a teacher workshop conference, it's like a garage sale has erupted on my table because I just try to encourage them to use things that are not that costly, and you don't have to have
Right.
computers to do these
because
things.
some people don't.
Because some people don't.
Absolutely.
And a lot of Sunday school teachers don't have that option to bring into their classroom.
Sure.
So it was a surprise to us that it would be well received, and we're just
And it
grateful.
was,
And
yeah.
we're so grateful to have an opportunity to share what God's let us do.
But I remember we did the banquet on that Friday night, and she, as an after dinner thing, did a little Rocky.
Mhm.
And you had a nice setup here for the awards for the children workers and the teachers and all. And then I gave a short, believe it or not, short thing about the importance of teachers. The next day, we were, 2 or 3 hours, something
probably,
like that.
something like
About least 3
And it
hours.
was kind of tag team back and forth. She'd do the hands-on
Yep.
stuff, and I'd talk maybe about a philosophy, biblical philosophy of teaching, things like that.
Absolutely.
And from that, we got to go to Loving and Leading Conference.
Right.
And man, that was different to us.
Sure.
And really, it really
Amazing.
helped us a lot to get us some doors open. One thing about the ministry is you can't just go beat on the doors. You have to let the Lord open
right.
those things.
That's
And
exactly
I
right.
had to learn early on because I was just flailing, and failing at it, getting into churches. And I said, Lord, you're going to have to go before me. When I call these pastors, or you're just going to have to lead me where we need to go. So we're just asking the Lord to send us where, He
Amen.
wants us to go. We want to be ready to go and go through
Amen.
those open doors.
Can you tell them your website? So if they would like to go there and take a look at some pictures, I know you got some great pictures on there because I stole them for our flyer.
Yes.
But-
We need a little update there, but we haven't gotten that in place
it
yet.
needs to be updated. That's something that my wife and
But
I,
they can contact you through
Yes.
they
that.
can, TedJoeandRocky.com.
Okay.
Ted, Joe, and Rocky.com.
J-O, not
J-O,
J-O-E.
not J-O-E.
Okay, wonderful. Well, like I said, they are with us this week, and we're actually in the room right now where in just a little bit there'll be hundreds of kids in here. And this is, I just put a little thing on Facebook last night. This is one of the most exciting meetings our church has every year. And I think your most exciting meetings ought to be Great Commission oriented,
Yes.
for sure. But it is. And the Lord is just doing a work in our church when it comes to getting the gospel out and presenting the gospel. And our people have just stepped up this week. We'll have 50 workers here tonight working with these kids. And we are praying for you guys as you minister tonight. And our theme is Hero Quest. And we kind of came up with our own theme and said, you guys do whatever you want to do. But it's amazing because you told me you were talking about Joseph this week.
Great hero.
A great hero because he listened to the greatest hero.
Absolutely.
And man, I just love how the Lord tied all that together. And if you're in the Winchester area, it is tonight at 7:00 at Lighthouse Baptist Church at 2581 Northwestern Pike. And you can go to our website, www.lighthousewinc.com, or you can contact us through the Facebook page. And we have buses running all over Winchester tonight, picking kids up and bringing them back safely to you. But for 4-year-olds all the way up through 12th grade. And we're
Good.
looking
We'll
forward
take
to
'em.
a wonderful evening.
We'll take them.
Amen.
And
Thank
I'm not
you,
going to cut
guys.
anybody
Thank
in
you.
half this
Thank
time.
you.
Okay.
So,
All right.
everybody-
Well, guys, thank you so
Thank
much for doing it. This is our first Facebook interview with anybody.
Ours too.
So,
Ours too.
so thank you for doing it with us.
Thank you.
And we love you guys and are praying for you even after you leave here. Where are you going to next? You going home? Or?
We are going to, this is a good name, Nellie Head Memorial Baptist Church in Tunnel Hill, Georgia.
Wow.
So, Nellie Head Memorial. I don't know
And
who
we're looking
Nellie
forward to
is, and I'm glad that her head has been memorialized. That's where we're going next.
Well, thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you all for watching. And we will post this on the page so you can rewatch it later on. But please be praying for us tonight and through Wednesday as we have our children's crusade. Thank you all. Have a good day.